Hey, Dr. Mike here. Are you seeing benefits of raw milk on your timeline and wondering if you should try it? Stick around to find out why that's not the best idea.
You're listening to Live Foreverish, a show dedicated to helping you live just a little longer. Here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Crystal Gossard.
All right, welcome to Live Foreverish. Raw milk, Dr. Crystal. Listen, a lot of people want it. A lot of people are asking for it. You know, I don't. You know, it's definitely it's been around, but it's gaining traction.
Well, I think it's because we associate anything that is as close to how nature provides it, that somehow it's better
It must
for
be better.
you.
Yeah.
So I think it aligns with the organic and the natural movement.
I understand that to a degree, but you know, this is where we have to do our due diligence as consumers, where you may see a really cool video about raw milk and all these great benefits, but you know, we have to check these things, right? We got to make sure in today's world with the internet, you got to make sure whatever you're watching is true.
Right. And then you have to start thinking about the extra processing is happening for a reason.
Yeah.
And I don't think any company is going to spend additional dollars to pasteurize milk if it's not necessary, if it's not
it's
kind
costly.
of making it better in some kind of way.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good way to think about it. You got, you know, corporations went to cut costs, right?
Right. So if you can cut out a process.
They would have raised, but they went profit. So if they could, but here you have a costly process that they do and they support. So I'm going to run through. I found the kind of some of the most common, benefits that people believe in raw milk. And let me just run through these and just because I know we're going to talk about these kind of coming up. But this is what people, if you go online, this is what people think about raw milk, that it boosts immune function better than pasteurized milk. It protects against certain infections. I think one of them was like bird flu. And then a lot of people believe pasteurization destroys all of the health-promoting compounds in normal milk, the immune components and all that kind of stuff. And raw milk, this is another belief, raw milk is a treatment for lactose intolerance. And it contains lactase secreted by probiotics in raw milk. And raw milk is a treatment for allergies. That's a lot of benefits.
Well, those are, you know, I think when you dig deeper, and it sounds good, and I can see how maybe there could be some confusion around those proposed benefits.
Yeah. So we kind of took this and said to ourselves, well, let's fact check these things, right? And we're going to get into that. But before we do, let's talk about the safety.
Yes.
Of raw milk, of consuming it. I know we have a lot of things we could say about it, but just what's your overall take about safety of raw milk?
Well, I think you're taking a chance with every sip. I would say that. And so no, according to the FDA food safety report, it clearly demonstrates the hazards of drinking raw milk. And experts strongly recommend that milk be pasteurized before consumption. And I put this into the category of risk versus benefit. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of in life, you know, and when it boils down to, is the risk worth it? And I would have to say no. Yeah, it's not worth it.
Especially when you look at the types of pathogens they culture from raw milk, right? I mean, the government does this. They take raw milk and they culture it, looking for bad things. And in those samples, they find things like Campylobacter, which is a horrible diarrhea-causing bacteria. Salmonella is all over raw milk. Listeria, E. coli. This is the things that grow from raw milk.
That's very true. And, you know, we take our chances. We take our chances when we eat a raw burger every time, you know, so I think.
Right. That's true.
It's, but I don't think anyone can deny that there is a risk. And I think what's happening with the raw milk movement is the denial that it's a risky thing.
Yeah.
And you find people giving it to their children, to their grandparents, populations that are even more at risk.
Yeah.
For having serious reactions.
So what's your take then? Would you say to somebody, no, don't drink this, or put it in that risk benefit kind of conversation?
I think there is no scenario where the benefit outweighs the risk for me.
Yeah.
No. I mean, there are too many beneficial ways to boost your immune system. If we're going to look at that first kind of talking point that someone is doing this for the immune system boost, so many better ways
to boost
your immune system. Even if you're wanting that, how about let's get some whey where you're going to get lactoferrin that we know we have the scientific evidence that it boosts immunity without the risk.
Yeah,
it's kind of, to me.
There's great point. There's other ways to boost your, but they've also found that raw milk doesn't have any special immune boosting properties versus anything, right? I mean,
that part.
Yeah.
Well, no special immune boosting properties that pasteurized milk wouldn't have.
Yeah.
When you look at immunoglobulins, there's this idea that pasteurization is somehow destroying those antibodies that you would find naturally in milk. And then you look at the details and you see that one of the main antibodies, IgG, is heat stable, and studies show zero to little effect on IgG levels from heating milk during pasteurization. So, if you compare the two head to head, you're still getting
the antibodies
those antibodies.
They're still there,
right?
In pasteurized milk. I found this really interesting. I'm just going to read this verbatim, okay? Before widespread milk pasteurization, 1 in 4 cases of foodborne illness was attributable to pathogens in raw milk. As pasteurization became standard practice, that rate has now fallen to less than 1%. You're talking 1 out of 4 foodborne. I mean, that's thousands and thousands of cases a year, and now it's less than 1%.
Yeah, it's kind of we could go down the rabbit hole of advances in science, because I would put this in a scientific advancement when we realize the cause of illness and disease, that comes from bacteria, and how we can treat certain things and eradicate certain diseases almost completely, like the measles. But you still have certain groups that choose not to take the steps that would reduce their risk. You know where I'm going with this, I think. And so, yes, it's one of the scientific advances that has saved lives and continues to save lives. And then we also know, and I think we have some information later that just speaks to the number of deaths, stillbirths, miscarriages that have resulted from consuming raw milk. Mm-hmm. And so again, it's not worth it. It's not worth the risk.
It's not worth the risk, right? So one of the beliefs, so we just kind of debunked the whole immune function thing, right? Mm-hmm. Another, and I didn't know people believe this about raw milk, but it specifically can fight bird flu. Is there any evidence of this, Dr. Crystal?
Well, so no. I mean, it's not something that we're seeing in the research that it's able to do.
Yeah, I'm reading here like what we found. As a matter of fact, drinking the raw milk resulted in bird flu deaths of some animals. I mean, it's like, so it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a food that can target a very specific virus. That would be odd in and of itself, right?
It's yes. I think theoretically what what people are hoping would happen, right, is you have the cow that's infected with bird flu. And we know that more that's happening, that's increasing, right? And then there's the likelihood that this bird flu can somehow infect humans. I think we're all afraid. I can't remember the last bird flu
3, 4, 5,
scare,
6 years ago.
right? That was, several years
pre-COVID
back.
for sure, yeah.
Oh, yes. It was several years back. I'm thinking early 2000s. And so people are afraid of that. So they figure maybe they can get some immunity from that if the cows are being infected and then somehow they get some antibodies for the bird flu from that raw milk. I guess theoretical, people are thinking theoretical, but it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, even like, using, injecting horses, for instance, with snake venom and then collecting those antibodies. But then they concentrate they don't just take that and give it to the bird. That's not the antibody. They actually work with those and they increase them in the lab, and that becomes... So it's not just coming right from the horse. And so the same thing here. There may be some cow out there that had some immune globulins against bird flu. That's great. But how much are you actually getting of that when you take a sip? Or are they stable in your own system because it's not human, it's cow? I mean, there's all kinds of questions.
Right.
And there's just no evidence.
And that's the thing. I think we don't have solid evidence for that. That would cause or make the case for someone to take the risk of receiving other pathogenic bacteria and other pathogenic organisms from that milk. It's just, I go back, I'll keep saying risk versus benefit.
Yeah. I have two more. I got two more questions for you on this.
I'm not an expert here.
Let's
make that clear,
okay,
everyone that's listening.
And I'm not. No. We're not. We Life Extension has put together a really nice rebuttal, a paper talking about some of the dangers of raw milk. You want to be careful, right? And it's a fantastic report. I'll give him the URL right now, and I'll give it to him later too. It's at lifeextension.com/raw milk. I mean, dives into so much more research in depth, right? Very interesting paper. And we just agree with it. It makes, the science is there, and we're just reporting on that, right?
Yes.
So we're not milk experts. At the end of the day, if you want to drink raw milk, okay, just know your risk benefit, right? That's all. But there's two things. So number one. So when I'm asking you this question, I'm asking like both of us. Like I'm just throwing it out as a question.
All right.
Okay. Is raw milk a treatment for allergies?
Oh, so that's according to our research. And again, we found this information on Life Extensions and Life Extensions data as well as the FDA. And the studies are mixed. And when I say the studies are mixed, is there are reports out there, scientific studies reporting an association between raw milk consumption and reduced prevalence of allergies. But those studies, when you look deeper, there were several flaws.
Issues. Yeah.
Yes.
Issues with the study.
And so they are weak studies. And then there are other studies that have shown no difference between the two.
Raw and pasteurized, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we don't really have a preponderance of evidence to say that this is a benefit. You
got to remember when you're looking on scientific papers and stuff, and you see something that you like, one study showing some benefit, let's just say raw milk reduced allergy symptoms, whatever, right? And you like that because you're a raw milk proponent. That's great, fantastic. But in science, things have to be reproducible, right? And before it becomes a scientific fact or a scientific truth, at least up to that date, because science is always evolving, right?
Yes.
It has to be reproducible. And if there's other studies out there that are not producing the same result, meaning there is no benefit, there is no reduction in allergies, you can't make that claim.
Right. And I think that's the problem that I have with whoever's listening, with the people on TikTok, it may be a TikToker may be listening.
Hannah.
We may get some trolls, Dr. Mike. We have to be prepared to hold our guns.
I'm fine. No, I listen again. We're not. If you want raw milk, drink it. We're not saying that. We're just trying to give you some more of the facts that, at least as it stands today.
Yes,
with raw milk versus pasteurized.
Absolutely, and so that's the problem I have with some of the influencers that's pushing this, is that they're pushing this as gospel. Like we know this to be the case.
It's not the case.
And if you can, I would appreciate the presentation to be maybe a little more objective and say, this is what we think is going on.
One study showed raw milk helped with allergies, but we got to be truthful here. Many others haven't. That's how you present it, and then let somebody else decide.
Right, and then people are able to kind of make to make a decision about their health with kind of all the facts.
Question number 2.
All right.
See, you did great with that one. Question number 2. Pasteurized milk is not as healthy.
Oh,
I got to put it as a question. Is pasteurized milk not as healthy as raw? Because I said it was a question.
No. When you think about why people drink milk, if you look head to head at the carbs, the proteins, the fats,
calcium, people always talk about calcium.
You cannot say that it's healthier. It's just, that's kind of,
it's not the data is not there.
Yeah. The variation in the nutritional value between the two in research has been minimal. And that is from a systematic review of data.
Looking at other studies.
40 studies.
40. There you go.
40 studies found the effect of pasteurization on milk's nutritional value minimal.
Yeah. So there you go. That's, again, it's important in today's world. Don't just listen to one person saying one claim about something. Oh, even if it's backed up by one study. Yeah. That's not how we determine a scientific or medical truth. It's reproducible. And if other studies aren't out there supporting it or against it, you can tell the results of that one study. Yeah. Great. But you got to be honest that now this was one study.
Yes.
Others haven't shown this.
And let me just say this too, since we're talking about it.
Oh, you're getting
a lot of your raw milk manufacturers, these companies, it's a red flag if your raw milk label says that this is for animal consumption.
Yeah.
They are if you get sick, you're not going to be able to sue them because they're selling it as an animal product.
You're supposed to give this to your animal.
That's a red flag that they won't even market it for human consumption just due to not wanting that risk.
Let's end this conversation. You had mentioned before about some deaths and stuff like that with consuming raw milk. Do you want to kind of explain that a little bit?
Sure. So this is based on CDC data, literature, and state and local reports. The FDA compiled a list of outbreaks that occurred from 1987 to 2010 in the U.S. And so during this period, there were at least 133 outbreaks due to the consumption of raw milk and raw milk products. So these are outbreaks, right? From those 133 outbreaks, they cause 2,659 cases of illness, 269 hospitalizations, 3 deaths, 6 stillbirths, 2 miscarriages. Yeah. And we're thinking this is still kind of an underreporting.
It's underreporting. And a lot of those kind of stats are when it comes to infectious disease, because not everybody reports.
Right. And you can't really trust the companies that say, well, we test every batch. You miss things. Because that's what some of the raw milk suppliers are saying. Well, after we, collect the milk, we test it. But you still can't trust it because these outbreaks are still taking place.
And growth can happen after. You can test it right when it comes out, but you may not see colonies of, say, E. coli or something. But when it sits, they grow. They're eating off those sugars and everything, and next thing you know, a week later, now you would show a colony.
Right.
So it also depends on when you're testing.
That's true, Dr. Mike.
There you go. So should I tell okay, I'm going to tell you.
Oh.
I've had cheese made with raw milk. So long story short, this is a story that involves someone you know as well. She used to be a lab manager here at Life Extension.
Oh.
She went to France. In France, there's a lot of places that make cheese with raw milk. Mm-hmm. And there they tell people, oh, it's so much better. The taste is better. It's better for you, like all this kind of same stuff. And she bought into it. She was like, oh, it is so much better, whatever. So she snuck some from France to... I didn't say her name. They don't know who it is. So she snuck some from France to the United States and brought it into work because she knows I love cheese.
Yes.
And I was so excited. I was like, oh, yeah, I've heard it tastes better and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know.
It tastes like cheese?
It was
just
good cheese. It was just good cheese. Yeah, I didn't notice
everything
it.
From France.
I know. It was just good cheese.
Yes.
And I don't know if you would have told me pasteurized, I wouldn't have known. It was just good cheese from France. She thought it tasted better. I'm like, it's good cheese.
Yeah. I think the only way that you would get me to even try it is if I had my own farm and my one little cow.
You had control.
And I had control over the cleanliness of those udders and the container that
Let's
the
get
milk's
Dr.
being
Crystal
collected
her
in.
own little cow.
I want a cow. I want a farm and a cow. But for now, give me my pasteurized milk.
I got you. There you go. Again, to learn a little bit more about this and just to understand the facts. Again, this is not about do this or don't do this. We're just giving our opinion based on what we know today, what the science is showing, right?
Yes.
We do not believe consuming raw milk is the best choice. It's just not. But you can make that decision for yourself. But do go check out lifeextension.com/raw milk because there's a lot of good information that we didn't cover in today's show.
And references.
Copiously referenced.
Yes.
Every claim, you can go to that reference, go to PubMed, open it up, and you can read the actual study yourself. So go check that out, lifeextension.com/raw milk. Hey, when you're there, our sponsor, Life Extension, wants to say thank you. So if you do shop around when you check out, use the discount code PODCAST, and you'll get 10% off $50 or more plus free shipping and handling. That's PODCAST as your discount code. And don't forget at liveforeverish.com, tons more episodes, Dr. Crystal, that you can download, like, share, comment. We'd love to hear from you. And, of course, subscribe so you never miss a show. That's liveforeverish.com. I'm Dr. Mike. That's
Dr. Crystal.
Thanks for listening.